Hello friends, today I am going to cover the top 10 Express interview questions. If you are new to Express, then don't miss them, and if you are experienced, then revise these questions at least one time because sometimes we know only half information or answers. Hey, my name is Happy and I help candidates in cracking interviews. So let's start with the first question.
And yes, for a real interview experience, first hear the question, pause the video, then think about your own answer, then play my answer and compare it with yours.
What are the advantages of using Express with Node? Why we use Node, why we use Express with Node, there are reasons behind everything, right? Here I am going to share 4 advantages of Express. First is Express simplify web development. You know the roles of framework in software development, right? They basically simplify the software development process by providing many built-in methods and features. The same is true for Express framework also. Second advantage is middleware support. Yes, middlewares are very important for handling requests and response in a proper way. And with Express framework, managing multiple middlewares and handling millions and millions of requests is very easy. Yes, definitely I will cover this middleware in Express in upcoming question, but for now I am just giving you the overview. Okay. The third advantage is Express provides flexible routing system. So basically when any request come, you must redirect them properly to the methods of your REST API, okay, based on the request URL, right? So therefore, with Express framework, it is simple to understand the URL patterns and redirect them properly with minimum amount of code. That is the benefit. Again, I will cover this routing in Express in upcoming questions, okay, in detail. Then last advantage is template engine integration. So sometimes we create some dynamic HTML at server side rather than client side. And template engine integration help us in creating those dynamic HTML content. And basically here we combine the HTML template with the data from the database or anywhere. So basically Express framework will make this process very easy and simple for you. Great. These are some of the top advantages and features of Express which you must remember. I will also cover their implementation separately in detail in upcoming questions. But alright, I think I also have written very simple description here also, which I already explained. But yes, this can help you in the last minute quick revision just before the interviews. Okay, that's it. What is middleware in Express.js and when to use them? Very important question. Let's understand with the help of a flow diagram. First, we already know we have a front end and here is our REST API suppose. Now let's suppose it is created in Express, right? That we have to assume. Now the HTTP request will come from the front end and first inside the REST API the request will hit the middleware. Okay. Now remember one thing, middleware is nothing special but it's a function only. Now you may ask one question, you can ask like when middlewares are function, then why are we not just calling them function? Why we are using this middleware word for them? See, callbacks, constructors, middlewares, all these are functions only. Okay. But because they do a specific kind of job, a specific kind of functions they are, therefore we assigned them a different name to them so that they can be identified in a very clear way. Okay, so for example here middleware function act as a middleman between the request and the application endpoints, the get put post, okay, endpoints. So it's acting as a middleware. Okay, clear? All right, now this middleware or function will perform some logic inside it. Here with the request, it will perform the logic, and then by using the next method, it will pass the HTTP request to the next middleware. Okay, Then this second middleware will also execute the code inside it and pass it to the next middleware. And after executing all the middlewares only, then only the request will reach to the application endpoints like get, post, put, delete. And then the HTTP response will be sent back to the client. So now you can imagine how the request is being processed by the different middlewares. And if you notice, these middlewares are like very common functionality for which a developer has to write the code in, I think, almost all application. So basically, whenever a request will come, you will log the request details, then you will authenticate or validate the request, and then you will do some codes for security. So these are very common functionalities in every application. These are not business logic. It is for security, validation, all these purpose. Okay. And yes, I will explain them in detail in upcoming question. Okay. Okay. So one more thing here. Together, all these middlewares are also called request pipeline, because all requests are coming from the front end and have to pass through this pipeline, and then they will reach the uh, methods, the business, the get, post, real methods. Great. That is the whole story of the middleware. And here is a very easy to understand but the complete definition of the middleware. A middleware in Express is a function that handles HTTP request, performs some operations on that request, and passes the control to the next middleware. Alright, now in upcoming questions, we will explore the middleware implementation. Alright friends, before moving to the next question, if you have not yet accepted the never give up challenge, then accept it. Promise yourself you will never give up until you crack the interview. Start and accept this challenge by writing never give up in the comments right now and feel the confidence. How to implement middleware in Express? See, there are 4 simple steps for creating and using middleware in Express. Okay, let me show you. First, initialize an Express application like this, you already know. Second, define a middleware function, my middleware, like this. Name can be anything. As you can see, this middleware function accepts 3 parameters: request, response, and next is a callback function. I will explain you. So this means after receiving the request, the inside logic of the middleware will be executed, and then the next function that is received as the parameter will be called. Okay, now listen carefully. This next function is responsible for calling the next middleware function. Okay, all right. Until now, we have just defined the middleware here, same like a function. Okay, but we have not yet called it, right? So to execute or call the middleware function, we can use the use method of the Express application server, and there pass the above middleware name as an argument. Okay, so now when request will see this code, then the above defined middleware will be executed, and after that, as usual, we can use the listen method of the application server so that our server can listen to the request from the UI or somewhere else. That's it. Now if you open the browser and with this URL, then you will see the response. Because when app.use is executed here in code, the middleware code will be executed, and from there this response.send will send this as response. Okay, clear? Got it? Great. That is how a very simple middleware is first defined and then executed by using the app.use method. And all the steps I have written here for later reference so that there will not be any confusion, although I have explained all these 4 steps already. What is the purpose of the app.use function in Express? Very short question, but very important one, and you already know the 90% of the answer. I like this. After creating or defining the middleware, the app.use method of application server is used to execute the middleware globally. Remember, globally. And for all requests. Remember, for all requests. Okay. The same thing is written here. Globally, you understand. Use method will execute this middleware for all kinds of requests. Like request method, like get, put, post, delete, all methods. So that's why we are calling it globally. Now, yes, there are other methods also apart from app.use, which can like only specific methods they will execute, and they will not, then the middleware will be executed will only with a specific kind of methods, not with others, and that I will explain you in upcoming questions. Okay, but now you completely know what is app.use. What is the purpose of the next parameter in Express.js? Again, I think you know 70% of the answer, but now let's make it 100% because this is very important. We know how to define the middleware like this, right? Now our question is what this next parameter or next function is doing here. Because we are receiving this function as the parameter above, therefore it's a callback function. Okay, I hope you know callback function. When we receive any function as the parameter, that is the callback function. Now remember, in most applications we have more than one middleware. Okay, so for example here we have this another middleware defined like this. Then first we will execute the first middleware by using this method. Now when this middleware execution is completed, after that, in order to send the execution to the next middleware, we will call the next function at the end of the first middleware. Okay, and therefore then only this next middleware will be executed. Otherwise, if you will not use this next function, then next middleware will never be executed. So that then we will of course start the server, and finally we will get the output like this. And here you can see interview from the first middleware and happy is from the second middleware. And also that is the explanation, and here is also I have written the answer and the simplest definition of the next callback function. The next parameter is a callback function which is used to pass control to the next middleware function in the stack. Okay, and again this next function is a inbuilt function present in the Express framework. So that's why we use Express framework. Okay, it provides so many things that even we sometimes don't know how many things like it has providing to us. Great, that's the answer to this question. Hi friends, just a small notification. This video is part of my full course, Top 200 Node Interview Questions, which includes Express, REST and MongoDB questions also. All questions PDF book link is present below in the description. So like these candidates, if you don't want to miss anything for your interviews, then try it. Otherwise, no problem. Let's continue. What is the difference between application level and router level middleware? Root level middleware, sorry. You already know 90% of the answer to this question. Here is the code for application level middleware. This is the middleware implementation I already explained. And this is application level middleware. Okay, because it will be executed globally for all incoming requests and for all URLs in your application. The name is also like application level because it is common for all the requests coming to your application. Okay, that's why application level. Now let's see the code example of root level middleware. Here is our middleware, and it is root level middleware because it will execute only for this specific URL, or you can for this specific root, same thing. Okay, and not for others, not execute. So I already explained this also, right? But why I am covering this separately? Because sometimes we know the answer and the concept, but we don't know the different terms and names like root level middleware, application level middleware. So these terms can confuse us, and I want to make sure we do not be confused. Okay, so if we know the answer, we should know it completely. Alright, the same has been mentioned here also, so that if anyone wants to revise from the book later, then it will be very much pretty easy for them. What is routing in Express? Let's quickly understand with the help of a diagram. We already know we have a front end which can be in Angular, React, Vue, or etc. right? And then we have a REST API, which is in our case is in Express and Node. Now the HTTP request will come from the front end, and inside the REST API, it will first hit the middleware, right? Now suppose our application is an e-commerce application. And for that, we have controllers like orders, products, payments, etc. Anything related to e-commerce, okay? Then inside the controllers, we have these get orders, post orders, various methods, right? Now the question is how it will be decided which kind of request will go to which controller method. For that, we have a routing like this after the middleware. Now listen carefully. What routing will do, in the case of a URL with orders, the routing will redirect it to the order controller. And if the method in the request is get, then it will execute the get orders method of the orders controller only. So in the case of products or payments in the URL, the request will be redirected to the products or payments controller. And finally, the response will be sent back to the front end. Okay, so that is the role of routing. Here is the simplest and the easy to remember definition. Routing in Express is the process of directing incoming HTTP request to the appropriate handler functions based on the request method and the URL path. So these request method and URL path are the part of the request only. Great. In upcoming questions, we will explore more and more about routing. Okay. So get ready for the fantastic journey. How to implement routing? How do you define routes in Express? The answer is hidden in the question itself. We can implement routing by defining the routes in your application. That is the answer. Let me explain with the help of the codes. First, how to define the routes. First, like this, we can create an instance of the Express application. Then we can define a route for handling the GET request from the client. Okay. Here we will use the app.method name. Method can be get, post, put, delete. I am calling it journal method. Okay. So this is simply how we define the route. Nothing special. Now for it means now for every get request, this inside code will be executed. Okay. But in real applications, we redirect it to the controllers that I will show in upcoming question. For now, you can see this method will accept two parameters. First is the route path, and in this case it is slash, it means it's the route path. Okay, route. The second is the callback function. Now suppose the request is just www.example.com with the get method in the request. Okay, URL and the method is there. Then this defined route will be executed with the second argument callback function. Okay, and here is the second function we also called this second function, or we also called route handler. Similarly, we can define the routes for other methods like post, put, delete, and if the URL is .com/login, that means this defined route will execute only when the URL will have this login in the URL. Okay, and the post method, the request method is the post only. For that only this will execute. Great. This is how we can define the routes to implement a simple routing. Finally, we can start the server, open the browser. You can see here for the root URL, we are getting the get method request response. As I said in real application, we do not send the response like this. We will first redirect the request to the controller method, and then the response will come that I will show in upcoming question. But now you know how to define the routes, and here I have also written the same thing which I already explained. It can help you in the last minute revision just before the interviews. Okay. What is express.router in express.js? You already know the answer, but I am just putting it here so that while revising the list of the question, you do not miss the small things. Yeah, and that's I always do. So here is the code for defining routing for the router method. And the answer is simple. Express.router is a class in Express.js that returns a new router object. Okay. What is route chaining in Express? You know the meaning of chaining, right? So route chaining means you can define multiple route handlers for a single route. Okay, let me show you by example in this code. Here you can see we have two middlewares. Okay, now our requirement is to execute these two middlewares one by one for a single route. Okay, got it? So for that we will use route chaining concept like this. First, inside the route method, the first parameter we will define is the single route. So this is the single slash route is the single route. And then we will define the middlewares one by one. Okay, or you can also say these are route handlers. So now these middlewares will execute one by one for this single route. That is simple route chaining. And then we will of course start the server and enter the URL in the browser, see the output we are getting, middleware 2, and then finally the route handler. So basically from above middlewares only we are getting this, and this is output is also there at the bottom, and route chaining example is inside from the this route method. Okay, and basically this why we this how this concept help is route chaining is a process. What we have learned is defining multiple route handlers for a single route, right? What it is helping, how it is helping is basically modularity, organizing code, improving readability, separating concerns. Very heavy words. Okay, but in short I will say that suppose you have multiple middlewares you want to execute for one route, so that it will maintain this route chaining. Okay, and one more thing, instead of app.get we normally prefer router.get. Obviously I explained earlier for route chaining, but just to make this code shorter here I used app.get for simple explanation. Okay, only otherwise I have to create two files. So great, that's the story, and I have written here finally the route chaining definition and how it helps, that also written here. Congratulations for completing all the questions. As I always said, most students study to just learn. But you don't have to just learn, you also have to crack the interview. And facing interviews need courage. For that courage and spirit, all the best from my side. And yes, if you have not yet accepted the never give up challenge until you crack the interview, then accept the challenge now by writing never give up in the comment section. And yes, don't forget to like and subscribe the channel. Thank you.